how did you make the decisions together with Wilson around how much equity to give? I think that's a problem that every entrepreneur faces, right? Because to your point, you don't want to be greedy, but it's always a question of like, there's like lots of different methodologies, a slicing pie method. Like there's tons of ways to think about breaking up the pie and being fair and equitable. How did you go about sort of educating yourself in that process? What advice would you give others who are trying to make that determination?
This is to like, early employees, executives, co-founders.
Yeah. Like someone who is like, maybe in their, maybe you're not even, the thing that people don't realize is someone can run a business for 5, 6, 7, 8 years and then decide to start scaling, right? We see it all the time. But at that point, you've probably, those companies in particular, the founder is used to owning everything, is used to the kind of revenue that substantiates like them and a bunch of contractors. But if you want to formalize that business, or let's say you're in your first year and you're trying to capitalize, you still have the same conundrum. How do I take something that was all mine and give parts of it to others in a way that I don't feel like I've given too much, but I also haven't given too little?
Yeah. So I think I think about it a couple of ways. I mean, one, you can certainly, read blogs from folks like, Fred Wilson and Union Square that put out like some of the general constructs around like, here's how much equity the first pool should have versus second pool versus the third pool. So I think that you can do some of that stuff. I think also you can look at, if I have to go raise this, like a variety of rounds of capital, like I'm going to raise a seed and an A and a B and a C, or whatever. And here's what I kind of think the business could exit for. I'm hiring a chief strategy officer early on. I'm hiring a chief risk officer early on. They're taking pay cuts from where they came, right?
Yeah.
And I need to be able to tell them with a straight face, like, hey, yes, you're taking a pay cut, but I'm going to give you this. And realistically, I think, this 5% is going to get diluted down to 2 or 3% at the end of the day, because we're going to raise an A and a B, whatever it is. But like with reasonable dilution, and yes, maybe you'll get more options to get topped up, but like at the end of the day, you'll end up at 2%, whatever it is, right? That 2% times a couple $100 million is going to be a big slug. And at a better tax rate, and like look at what you're missing now, and you're going to get a huge premium for your risk you're taking. Like that's what I think you have to be able to do to like convince good people to join the business.
Yeah.
And then obviously it depends on what stage in their career they are, and but I think if you're too, like every single person who joined, we probably could have given less to on the front end, right?
Yeah.
But then you just create a situation where eventually they realize where they're at, and like they end up wanting more. And it like, you can create resentment.
Yeah.
And so like, I think I generally try to be as generous as possible, just to build that goodwill. And again, I want, I have a bunch of co-founders here. I want them all to feel like they're true partners in the business. I don't want them to leave the business ever. Yeah. As we grow and as their equity is worth more, I want their stake to be worth more.
Yeah.
Right? And even, every single person at Sunstone has equity in the business. I want them to feel like owners.
Yeah.
Right? I want them to feel like there's a problem and I'm going to solve it because I'm an owner of the business.
Last question on equity. Do you start from the position of like X%, which is kind of how people think about it, or as like X, you start trying to get people to think about the like dollar value of shares and the exchange they're making? Because one of the companies I'm invested in did it sort of a different way, where they said, look, here's the round. It's a pseudo priced round. We give every share this value. If you forego your earning, like this is your market rate, this is what we're going to pay you, that differential we're going to give you in a premium to the current priced round. That's one way to think about it. How do you think about it?
I think about it two different ways at different times, right? Like your percentages are tricky because most people end up getting very small percentages, right?
That's right. Yes.
So for like those first early core employees who are getting like percentages with a number up to the left of the decimal point, right? There it's like, hey, you own 5% of the business, right? But that's big, right? I can show you the economics for it, but like that's a percent. When we hire a new analyst right out of, school, they're getting point something, right? And it's not a big number. And so that point something could be worth a lot of money one day, right? So I'm not trying to like diminish its value, but it's a little tricky to go someone and be like, hey, you're getting 0.1%. Yeah. Right? Like that doesn't seem like a lot. But so in that case, I think the math's important, right? Hey, you're getting, make up numbers, you're getting 10,000 options. Mm-hmm. The fair market value of the options is $1. The last round was $4. And look, like, obviously this is dependent upon us having an exit, but like, that's $10,000 of option value or $40,000 of option value today. Yeah. Right. And so, yes, you could have gone to work for insert X investment bank and made $20,000 more your first year, but you don't get those options. And those options could be worth nothing, but they could also be worth twice that, 10 times that, right? Whatever it is. I think that's an easier way to quantify it.
Certainly.
And so like, as the business grows, I think it's more about the dollars, because people just like the percentages just aren't very big at all. And I think it's hard to get excited about like 0.05%, but it can be worth a lot of money. There's a lot of people who made millions of dollars off 0.05% of Facebook, right?
Oh yeah.
So, or 0.00% of Facebook, right? Made a lot of money. Yeah. And so I think that's kind of the better construct. And so we get people like salary options, and then as they get promoted within the company, they can get more options. And so we have like general bands, not exact, but like, we're doing a promotion soon, and that person's going to get an option bump because they're going into a new band, and that new band has a higher option award. So they become a larger owner of the company, right? Okay.
I thought it was the last question, but it's not. Who helps you structure those option bands? Like, is that something you turn to your lawyer and say, hey, help me figure this out? Or is that something that you've now just done for a number of times and you have the experience with it, you and Wilson?
I've done it a bunch, but we look at like the available pool, like what's out there, and like what we think we're going to need, and we try and back into like what's the value of that pool on a cash basis and how much we think we need, and then that's sort of how we figure it out.
Got it.
So like I would say like that's like lawyers, like I mean they help document things, but they're not really economic creatures in that regard.